Hello and welcome to lesson 25. Make sure you copy this down on a fresh 2 pages in your math journal. You're going to put the date in the middle. And the topic today is dividing with decimals. So you guys just came off of learning and practicing the standard algorithm for division. Today we're going to just move straight on to decimals, and pretty soon you guys are going to be dividing with the standard algorithm with division. Today we're just going to practice estimating division with decimal places. So make sure you have changing units written down here, because that's going to be a strategy that we use today to help us make sense of dividing with decimals. Make sure you write your learning target, which is I am able to approximate decimal quotients and reason about the placement of a decimal point. Now that sounds very confusing, but all it's saying is I am able to approximate. That's just another word for estimate or make an educated guess, something about there. You guys are really good at that at this point. Decimals, quotients, and reason about the placement of a decimal point. So basically that means that if you see a number and it has a decimal point and you divide it, you can say why that decimal point is moving and where it's going. So make sure you have this copied down, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, because we'll be reflecting on this at the end here. Let's go ahead and use our first example. Alright guys, here we have two separate problems. We have 39 1/10 divided by 17, and I have 3 ones and 91 hundredths divided by 17. I want you to think about these problems like money. That might help you make a little bit more sense of all this dividing. Alright, so let's start with this first problem. Let's call it problem 1, and we'll call this one over here problem 2. So first, I want you to think about this as $39.10 split amongst 17 students. How much money would each of those students get approximately? Okay? Alright, so here's all this money we're talking about. That's probably a little bit more than 40 bucks. I'm just going to go ahead and stick this right over here to the side. So we are approximating today, which is the same thing as estimating. So our answer is going to have these little squiggly lines right here, because it's not really equal, it's going to be about equal. So let's see, 17 we are going to round to, that's right, 20. 39.1 is really close to what? I mean, this is pretty obvious here, 40. So if you had about $40 and you had about 20 students, this is a pretty easy problem. And this one will put an equal sign, because 40 divided by 20, let's see, let's skip count by 20s. 20, that's 1. 40, that's 2. If we had $40 and 20 students, each student would get about, and actually, let's be more precise here, each student would get about $2. Alright, so our answer to this problem is 39.1 divided by 17 is about 2. Now this one over here is going to be a little bit more tricky, so I'm going to move this money back over here, and we're going to think about this in a different way. Let's imagine that instead of $3.91 in dollar bills and a little bit of change, we just had all change. Now we still have those 17 students, but let's imagine we had $3.91 in quarters and quarters and dimes and nickels and pennies. And we probably won't use these whole dollars here because it just won't work. But let's imagine instead we're using change. That's just an easier way to think about it. So we have $3.91 in change among 17 students. And we're just going to approximate how much each of them would get. So I'll move the dollars up here, and I'll move the money over here. So again, 17 is just going to round to 20, but 3.91 isn't going to round to 40, it's going to round to 4. Now this makes it a little bit more challenging for me, but I'm going to show you guys a trick. So we can think about 4 a few different ways. We could think about it as 4 ones, or we could think about it like this. We could think of it like 40 tenths. We can divide 40 tenths by 20 really easily. 40 tenths divided by 20 would just be 2 tenths, which is a pretty easy problem. Now if I'm thinking about coins, I'm thinking, what coin is tenths? Not pennies, not nickels, but yes, dimes. Dimes would be really easy. So if I'm wondering, if I had about $4 to give to each of 20 students, each one would get about 20 cents. And we would just write this like this. So again, 4 divided by 20, we just said equals 2/10, and we write 2/10 like this. We say 4 divided by 20 equals 0.2, which is 2/10. So our answer to 3.91 divided by 17 is just 2/10. Alright, so we have a different situation here. Let's think about this like bags of rice instead of money. So when rice comes to America, or wherever it's going, it comes in these big barrels. And what they do is they take it and they put it into bags from there. So what I want to think about is, let's think about this number up here. We have 63.6 divided by 73. Now let's think about this like 63.6 kilograms of rice is going to be put into 73 bags. All right, so again, we need to estimate. So what I'm going to do is estimate 73 down to 70. And I'm going to estimate 63.6 to just 63, because I know that 63 is a multiple of 7. So I'm going to say 63. Now again, I have a problem, because 70, our divisor, is bigger than our dividend. But that's just because we're thinking about it in the wrong unit. So we have 63 ones here, but another way I could write that is 630 tenths. So I'm going to write that like that. And I'm going to say 630 tenths divided by 70. Now 630 tenths divided by 70, if you know your facts, 70 will go into 630 9 times, just like 7 will go into 63 9 times. So we went ahead and just solved that problem. So that 630 tenths divided by 70 is 9 tenths. And the way we write 9 tenths is just like this, 0.9. Let's try the problem on the right and see if we can solve it a similar way. Alright, again, what we're going to do is we're going to round these numbers the same way. We're going to round 73 to 70, and we're going to round 6.36 to just 6.3. Now, if I had a hard time dividing 63 by 70, I'm certainly going to have a hard time dividing 6.3 by 70. But only if I'm thinking about it like ones. Now, even if I do 6.3, if I turn that into tenths, that's still going to be 63 tenths. But what about if I turn it into hundredths? So let's try doing that. I can do that again. So let's take 6.3 and turn it into 630 hundredths divided by 70. Again, I can do that really easily. I'm just going to have, and this will equal, because I just did the math a second ago, it's going to equal 9 hundredths. And that will look like this, 0.09. Hopefully you got that same thing. So to answer our question here, our situation that we had, each of these bags of rice, we had 63.6 kilograms in 73 bags, so each bag of rice is going to have 0.9 kilograms in it. Over here, on the right side, if we had the same situation, these would be smaller bags, but each bag would have 0.09 kilograms, or 9 hundredths in it. So that is the end of this problem. Let's look back at our notes real quick. Alright guys, we just had 4 example problems where we had dividends smaller than our divisor and our quotient wound up being a decimal. Now the way we did that was using a strategy called changing units. When we did that, what we did was we didn't change anything about the number at all. So in our first example, our divisor was 4, or actually I guess this is our second example, our divisor was 20 and our dividend was 4. And we just said, well, 4 is the same thing as 40 tenths divided by 20. And 40 tenths divided by 20 is just 2 tenths, which looks like 0.2, which is 2 tenths. So not a big thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put the definition for changing units up here for you to copy. There you have it. It's just a strategy to help you divide when the dividend is smaller than the divisor. Not too bad. So, if you have no idea how anything about like what we did today, you have no idea how ones went to tenths and tenths went to hundreds, I want you to go back and rewatch it. You might be a 1. If you kind of get it, but you're a little bit unsure, try the problem set. Maybe try watching the video again. Maybe you'll get it a little bit more the second time. You might be a 2. If you get it and you're ready to move on, you're probably a 3. And if you totally get it and you can explain to somebody who's a 1 or a 2 how to do it, you would be a 4. Go ahead and write really quickly whether you're a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. And I hope you enjoyed the lesson.